Hello everyone, this is CJNovo992 and today we're back for another brand new video, and it's that time of the year again, people, that go on an Spfl League prediction journey together and usually get every single one of them wrong. It's a tremendous tradition right here on the channel, but it's a tradition I love doing because when it's here, it means the season is about to kick off. And as these videos are usually pretty long, people, I think it's time just to throw the old screen up. What's up? Like magic right here and just get on with the actual video. If you do find yourselves enjoying the content at any time, please consider hitting that like button or subscribe button, or if you'd rather wait to see if this channel is worth either of those things, let's go ahead to try to earn it. I think we're going to start off where we always start off then, people, and that is the bottom of the league. And if you've watched these videos over the last couple of years, you know exactly what team I'm going with next. It's a kind of love-hate relationship that we have. I hate them, they love to hate me. It's tremendous. It is none other than St Johnstone Football Club, which may surprise a lot of people. I don't know too many people that's actually talking about St Johnstone finishing bottom this season, but I've picked them, so that means if you're a St Johnstone fan, you're going to have a great year. And it is interesting the timing of me sitting here doing this video because I know they've just been absolute scudded of Stirling Albion, so that may change a lot of people's narratives because they were absolutely destroyed 4-0 of Stirling Albion, people. But they've also lost to the likes of Ayr, and I usually don't break down how the seasons went in terms of the pre-season and cup games and everything like that rather than into a league prediction video, but I feel like that is important to show and mention. They got scudded of Stirling Albion, but it's their transfer business has really no impressed me either. Murphy's gone, even though he was a bit hit and miss for them. Howberg's gone, who I thought was actually going to be a really good player for them, or a talented player at least, and our boy Witherspoon as well has left, who always had a big moment in a big game. He just sort of timed out. It's one of these things that happens in football, but he always had a moment for them and always seemed to score in big moments or create big opportunities for them, and it's all gone now, ladies and gentlemen. And you look at the guys they're bringing in and there is nothing really to get excited about. Now again, something I do need to preference, because a lot of people start poking fun at these league prediction videos and start putting them on Twitter and social media after a couple of months or a little bit. You need to remember when I'm recording this video, before the first game of the season, as it stands, St Johnstone signed just 2 players, people. A centre forward for Plymouth who might score a couple goals, and that is really it in terms of big names and big opportunities and what they're actually bringing in. That's their business. They've lost a lot of players. They've brought in one guy who could potentially score a goal and another guy, again, there's a massive question mark about. That's it regarding St Johnstone, and I've not got too much else to say. I think this time will come, and I feel like Championship is calling. Number 11, we have none other than Ross County Football Club, and I feel like this one's maybe a lot that people agree with down in the comment section below. And if you are watching today's video, by the way, I would love to see how you're plotting your journeys and everything like that. We'll obviously come back to, we'll discuss it, whether it's in a live format streaming somewhere or right here on the old channel. So let me know how you're feeling, but I feel like we could probably all agree on Ross County sitting in 11th, but although the only difference for me and maybe them finishing last to obviously finishing 11th is their transfer business. They've brought in 7 players so far in the window. Again, there's still a little bit of time left and other people could addition, but I've been impressed. Again, Brophy full time. Is he going to get settled and start becoming the player he looked like he could potentially be a few years ago? He could be, ladies and gentlemen, and that could be the difference. He seems to have a goal in him or two. Again, he's never been prolific, but he seems to score a goal that wins you games, and when it's that tight down there, the goal here or there, 7, 8, 9 goals in a season, whatever he ends up hitting this year, could be the difference maker in finishing rock bottom and getting an opportunity through the playoffs, which I think Ross County will get once again to stay in this league. The real worry for me though is losing Big Lacotti at the centre back, or as I call him, Cotty. I don't know why, I just started doing it a few years ago and it's stuck. People, I think he was a very good centre half for them, by far their best centre half, and he's gone now, so I can see them leaking goals and getting scudded, especially for the likes of the Rangers and Celtics and stuff like that. It could be brutal for them this season with some of the score lines that they see, but I think they'll do just enough to beat the worst team in the division, in my opinion, St Johnstone. Which means now we get to number 10, and I'll be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, this is probably the team a lot of people's picking to finish last, and I get it, coming up from the Championship, sacking their manager, crazy Dundee style stuff, and maybe I have been persuaded because one of my friends, Ben, actually supports Dundee, and we'll be speaking a lot about it regarding his fantasy team and where he looks at players who he thinks is going to be good, so it's maybe slipped into the old brain, and now I'm starting to get a wee bit confused, but I do feel like Dundee could finish 10th, and I believe they'll actually do that. I have been actually impressed with their signings that they've brought in. Again, they've brought in some decent players. Pineda's a very interesting one. Obviously, Robinson's been scoring goals for them for fun and everything like that, making his move permanent, if you will. But for me, Pineda could be an important player for them, but I just feel like they've got enough in there. I think their home form will do them good enough, and they'll just pip 11 and 12. Coffney's the one to watch for me, in my opinion, regarding Dundee. Again, he's been one of those players we've heard a lot about down at the Championship, having moments, having this. Now he's getting the opportunity at the big time with Dundee. Apparently he's going to be big plans for Dundee, so it could be his season to really cement himself in the top division. And again, he's got a bit of trick about him, he's got a bit of creativity, and you'll always have that. Portales as well, the centre-back that they've brought in. I mean, it's an interesting recruitment. They've seemed to have went loads of different places in a lot of different areas, and I quite like that. People, it's not the same boring third division in England bringing up scraps, and they've used their scouts, if you will, so could be interesting, and I see them hitting that number 10. Number 9 is next, and for me this one could go wrong or very, very right, as this could be easily a relegation bait all season long, and it's actually the team we start with playing tomorrow, and that is none other than Kilmarnock. And I just feel like Kilmarnock will do enough again to pinch the other teams, because they have got some experienced heads in there. I think they've done some good recruitment. I love wee Lewis Mail getting a permanent move, and I feel like with the games he played, over 35 games last season for them, I feel like he'll get an opportunity again to play more. He'd be a big player in it, and I'd love to see the young laddie develop. He's obviously got Sahan. Again, was it enough to break through at Rangers? No, but let's not hold that against the lad. He's still a professional footballer, and hopefully does very well at Kilmarnock. I like the additions of the likes of the Matty Kennedys, for example, and of course Kyle McGuinness, who I thought was going to be a really talented player in this league. Again, not for Rangers or Celtic or anything, but I thought he was going to be a really good player a couple of years ago when he was shining at St Mirren. The move didn't work at Hibs for whatever reason. It just didn't translate almost from the first kick. I know he had some injuries and stuff like that, but now he's there. Derek McInnes knows how to get the best and get every ounce of talent out of certain individuals, so it could be the thing that keeps Kilmarnock in this division longer, and I think they'll have a slightly easier job of it this season than they did last season, where again it looked doom and gloom for a lot. That plastic park is always a question mark and everything, and a difficult place to go. They will pick up some points here or there, and I've been impressed with the recruitment so far. So for me, Kelly is at 9. And remember how I just said Kilmarnock could go either right or very, very wrong? Well, I feel the exact same regarding Motherwell, but for loads of different reasons, because I never know what to do with Motherwell as we get to number 8, because you look at them on paper all the time, they look rotten. All the time, every year they look stinking. They have a 6 months where they are stinking, and then they just turn it on and a player ends up going on fire, scoring goals to get points. They're the weirdest team in this league. Look dead and buried all the time. They end up doing really well, or they'll start very well and they dead and buried towards the end. They're such a strange team, but for me, where I'm putting them in this 8th spot is simply for one reason and one reason only. That is the fact that their goals have gone. Van Veen is gone. I'll give you a wee fun little fact, if you will. Motherwell and Hearts were the only 2 teams outside the Old Firm to have a positive goal difference. And you know why Motherwell was there? Big Van Veen. Well, he's gone now, and I just do not see the goals with Motherwell getting replicated. So I see it being another frustrating, interesting season for Motherwell. But again, I feel like 8th is a good enough spot for them. CR7 is next, and it's the other side of the plastic part coin, if you will. I'm now looking at Livingston, and I have spoke to a lot of people obviously around this. It does this type of thing like YouTube, and a lot of people expect Livingston to struggle, and I get it, understand why, but for me, I never write out Livingston, because everything tells you every single year this team is going to be rotten, this team should be gone down. Not just their wage budget or anything like that, but they lose their best players year upon year upon year upon year, going all the way back to their first time being up in the top flight not too long ago, ladies and gentlemen. They lost all the players that year, the Liam Kellys and everything, then the Lyndon Dykes left, then the Hawkins, Dolly Menga. It was crazy. They've just lost player after player after player, and they bring in boys, you scratch your head and say, how's he going to actually perform? And I'll be honest, there's no that player that's really jumping out to me like the Jets and stuff like that over the last couple of years that you've looked and says, right, he could be the guy. They haven't done it yet, but Livingston's business is always done late in the window in terms of what they can actually afford and what they can bring up. That's almost like players need to see they're not getting this move, miss move. Livingston gives them an opportunity, and then they take it and they do well. Then they get their move. That seemingly is the way that Livingston Football Club works, and I hope that they stay in the division despite a lot of people expecting them to be near the relegation. I like them as a club, I like the way they're running, I really, really like Martindale. I think he's a fantastic manager and a fantastic guy as well. So aye, good luck to Livingston. I just need to see who the oddball is, the question mark, that guy who always seems to turn it around and does well and earn a move next year. I need to see that sign before the end of the window, Livingston, please. Or it might be Curtains. The one to watch for me and the guy that I think will be their star man all season long, and it's the guy I'm going to have in the fantasy team all year, by the way, if you're looking for some tips. Then, by the way, I'm absolutely dreadful. But I feel like Kelly could be the one. Takes every set piece, scores free kicks. Obviously, was a former Rangers player as well, so I hope he does very well at Livingston. He continues to build and add to his profile. So good luck to them in the season. Just missing out on the top 6. Now let's get to it then, shall we? And aye, there's a wee bit of familiarity when it comes to the 6th spot, as we have none other than St Mirren Football Club. But aye, they finished 6th last season with a minus 18 goal difference. This league, man, honestly, this league is horrendous right now. A team in the top 6 can have a minus 18 goal difference, but that was them. And I think if you can finish in the top 6 with a minus 18, you should be alright the next again year as well. Some of their signings have been interesting. They moved on a couple pieces that I thought maybe was going to be a good piece for them, the likes of Declan Gallagher. It just never translated back with Big Robinson. Obviously got the best out of him before. I just think that manager's got something and got an ability to grind out points, and that for me is the major difference to break in to the top 6, because I think the bottom 5 are always so close to each other and so horrendous and so poor and get beat. If you're just one of these teams that can pick up, again, protect your home form, wee draws here or there, you end up propelling yourself and you're looking up and saying, how am I in the top 6? It's because everyone else has been absolutely rotten, and St Mirren knows how to look after themselves, get the results when they need to be, and I know the manager can set themselves up and grind out those points if and when required. So aye, top 6 for St Mirren. 5th is next, people, and the team that I have in the 5th part of the old table is none other than a team that is getting absolutely clowned and laughed at everywhere right now because of a certain performance in European football that had their fans absolutely beeling, and rightly so, and that is of course none other than Hibs Football Club. But aye, despite the loss in Europe and all this and the fans gone mental, but all the moaning about the mercurial David Brent S. Lee Johnson of a manager who I just find fascinating. People, is it me? He is David Brent. You just watch him. He's so interesting to watch because he's so awkward. He's just an oddball, and I kind of rate it. It makes me laugh every time I see him. I don't know what he says. I don't think it matters. He's just odd. People, David Brent-esque, and I get all that, and I get why people say they could struggle this year. But again, no disrespect to the rest of the league, even though I have called it absolutely dreadful already in today's video. You look at this Hibs side, they've got more than enough quality to pull away. And for me, the point differential from the likes of 5th to 6th, people, I think it's going to be bigger than 6th to 12th, if you know what I mean. Besides the top 2's point differential from the rest of the league, I think there's going to be a bigger gap between 5th and 6th this season than 6th and 12th, so aye, look out for that when it comes to the end of the season. That's how badly I think there is a difference in jump in quality, and I think Hibs have enough of that despite losing Kevin Nisbet. And I know they've brought in the likes of Adam Lafondra, and I know he is 76 years old. Is he going to replicate what Nisbet can bring? No, but he can bring in goals here or there. And again, for me, I feel like Hibs has done enough to solidify that 5th spot and be a bit of a pain for the teams above them. Now, the OCD/Sherlocks of this channel may be noticing right now that I am perfectly replicating beat for beat last year's top 6. St Mirren at 6, Hibs at 5th. What is actually next? Well, the thread I should say, continues, people, as we get to Hearts, and I think Hearts are going to finish 4th, not 3rd. And I said what I said last year. I thought they were by far the best team outside the top 2 last year, and I think for the large majority of the season they were, and then they just went on holiday mode and absolutely started caving. And once you lose that edge and anticipation, when you think your job is done, people, it's very, very, very hard to get that mindset back when you're playing professional football. And I think that's what happened with Hearts. They folded like a deck chair. They saw Aberdeen dreadful, they seen Hibs being dreadful, they seen Motherwell doing this and everything like that, and they thought, well, we're 3rd, we're not going to catch 1st and 2nd, let's stick it in holiday mode. And they ended up losing their spot to Aberdeen, rightly so, who continued to battle to the last whistle. And I feel like they'll probably live to regret that, if I'm honest with you. I look at Hearts, could they finish third? Yes, obviously they could, and they could reclaim the third best team in this country, but I just feel like they've maybe lost a couple of players, especially Janelli. Despite our incident on Call of Duty, I actually like the guy. I think he's a very talented X-Factor style player. Again, he's not a superstar, he's not Rangers and Celtic type, but he came in there and he added moments and opportunities and he had real pace, and I liked him on one side, I liked Mackay on the other, with Shanklin in the middle, Liam Boyce, who's obviously returning for injury. That is goals, that is creativity, that's what propels you right up to the league. Now they've lost that, and I'll be very interested to see how that works now. I think the laddie, maybe I'm paying him too much respect, maybe Hearts fans didn't rate him as I did when I watched the Hearts side, but he was a danger man and he was someone you had to be prepared for because of his electrifying pace, and I just think they're going to be slightly off balance going forward. And again, there is still loads of rumblings and rumours about Lawrence Shanklin, and if he does leave, ladies and gentlemen, I want to swap them for 5th or 6th in the league. Genuinely, that's how far and how much of a difference I think Shanklin makes to this Hearts side. But as I'm recording, he is still there. Mackay still there. Liam Boyce is still on the road to recovery, back playing football. So I think they'll have more than enough to finish third, but not finish fourth. Sorry, but not enough to finish in third. In the transfer window of signing a CDM, a centre mid and a goalie, or a 39-year-old goalie, by the way, doesn't exactly inspire me of putting the fit down and making sure they get back to that third spot. But speaking enough of the third spot, let's get to it, shall we? I have none other than, obviously, Aberdeen Football Club, who had a miraculous recovery last season after looking dead and buried for a lot of it under Jim Goodwin. Scotty Arfield really stuck the nail in that laddie's coffin on a beautiful, beautiful night. And aye, you can say it's either fantastic for Aberdeen to wrestle their way all the way back to third, or again it's an example of the standard in the Spfl. But they got third, and I think they're going to keep it. I like the business that they've done as well. They are a team that has spent a little bit of money. They've managed so far to keep a hold of Duke, by the way, which again is clinging in there, may be here by the end of the season, end of the transfer window. That could drastically change how I feel, and they could maybe slip below. But for me, he's the X Factor, he's the star man, he stays there. Aberdeen can go far. The interesting addition of Scholar as well could be one for them. He could end up being a bagsman, or he could end up being a flop. But aye, if you keep Duke there, and you've got obviously the big number 9 in there as well, Scott goals, and I've probably already annoyed every single person watching this video. That's vital, that's gold dust, not only in football but especially in the SPFL, where teams just didn't score any. Look at the goal differences, the Aberdeen's well and truly got that, despite losing the likes of the Matty Kennedys, the McLennans, sorry, not McLaren, although he is pretty quick, so maybe it works out. I get they've lost some pieces in that, but again, I feel like they've got more than enough. I also really like the transfer business of both Williams and Leighton Clarkson, from Liverpool. I think they're clever, I think they're good players, they're good pedigree on them. Now, will that translate to how Aberdeen want to play and how they play football? Who knows, but on paper it looks great. So the third best team in this country for me this season is none other than Aberdeen. Number 2, which is probably where everyone skipped to, by the way, is that's where it's going to go. But I don't know why, because it's obvious the way it's going to go. I mean, obviously, I'm going to put Celtic in second. Like, is that surprising anyone? Is that shocking anyone? I don't think so. I mean, when we came up for the championship after the year we finished third, I was picking us to finish first versus Brendan Rodgers. So my bias is always going to put that, because I'm always going to shoot for the star and aim for positivity. But there is a couple wee things that I wanted to talk about. Right, so I'm going to take my bias off the table and just put it right here for a second. I'm going to look at Celtic. For me, they have lost their best player in Jaw. I've said that many, many times. Obviously, McGregor's in there as well. But for me, the true star man of the Celtic squad, that the guy that I hated playing against, if I'm honest with you, was Jota. He had goals, he had assists. No matter, he could play anywhere in the front line. He got his big money moves. So that for me is a loss, despite people trying to talk it down, which I didn't understand. And also they lost their manager, Ange Postecoglou, who went away to Spurs, and whether that works out or not is someone else to talk about. It's certainly not me. And they brought in a guy who, just like Ange Postecoglou, left at the first team that came calling. And it's a very interesting one, as I know a lot of Celtic fans weren't happy about the reappointment of Brendan Rodgers, who of course left Celtic to go to Leicester after promising to stay. It was like the weird situation of your girlfriend leave you to go another guy, it doesn't work out, she ends up getting dumped like Rodgers did for Leicester, and then she comes back and it's together. I don't know how that's going to work out, and I'm not going to sit here and poke fun at it. I think he's a very, very talented manager. I think he's a great manager, actually, especially in this league, and he'll obviously install his own style of play, which is different for Ange Postecoglou. It's a bit more ball possession and everything. It's not as balls to the wall, everybody go forward, everyone go forward, I want 5, I want 6, I want 7, I want 8. Again, he wins, and both managers had a obviously fantastic winning success in the SPFL, winning everything they could win regarding the domestic side of things. So I'm not going to sit here and say which manager I think is better or anything. They have got slightly different styles they play, but what I do want to talk about, and it's something I didn't understand why no one else is talking about, people, is the signings Celtic have made. And for me, they're no Brendan Rodgers signings. You know what I mean? You look at the players they're still bringing in from the underappreciated Asian market, which I get, it's been a goldmine for them, so I'm not taking anything away from them, but that's no Brendan Rodgers signings, ladies and gentlemen. And you look at the rest of them and everything like that, is that Brendan Rodgers? For me, it's giving me the vibes that when like Gio wanted the Veermans and the Big Dookie and everything like that, and what did he get? He got James Sands and he got John Suter, slightly different players. And I don't know if I'm making any sense right here, but I just didn't get why no one else is talking about the fact that these players would have been signed whether or not Brendan Rodgers was in charge. And we've seen that so many times as Rangers fans know work out when the director of football is making the signings, or when this guy is making the signings, or when this guy is making the signings. And I feel like it is a kind of fractured relationship right now with Brendan Rodgers. And look, football is very, very fickle. He gets a couple of wins, starts smashing teams, which he will. By the way, he will destroy the majority of the teams in this league. Hopefully not Rangers, by the way, so everyone will forget and forgive. That's just the way football goes. But I just feel like if it does start to go a little bit wrong, I think you'll start hearing the rumblings. It's no my players. It's no. Do you know what I mean by that? Maybe I'm being stupid, but that's how I feel. I look at these Celtic signings and see they're no Brendan Rodgers signings. They would have been signed whether or not he was here. And I'm old school. I think the manager should get his own players and install his own players. That's just how I feel. And for me, that's why I think Rangers is going to finish first, despite my bias, ladies and gentlemen, because we translate perfectly to the Rangers side. We've finally made the signings we should have made a couple of years ago when we won the league from Celtic. When we stopped 10 in a row, this is the summer we should have been having. Moving players on, but spending money and really putting the foot down. Certain manager by the name of Steven Gerrard certainly asked that publicly and privately to the board, but he didn't get it. Now we're actually doing it, so there's no point in crying over spilt milk. If what's happened, ladies and gentlemen. We're now seeing the expenditure, and for me, it's no surprise we're now seeing it now that the director of football is gone and Michael Beales getting his players. And that's why I pull it back to the thing we just spoke about regarding Celtic, because Beales getting the players that he wants this time. There's nobody telling him, oh, look at this guy, oh, look at this guy, I want this guy, I want this guy. Everything like that. He's actually getting the players he wants to bring in, and I think that's massive for building trust and getting the best out of manager-player type relationship. And I love the players we've signed. We've signed 9. Obviously, Jose Cervantes has been announced, or he should be announced, by the way. I'm recording it in the same day as I'm expecting to be announced in about an hour's time, if I'm honest with you. But again, there is a lot of players being added in, real attacking talent, just getting rid of the players who were good players, but their enthusiasm, they were bogged down by the grind. It's a difficult thing to play the same teams 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a season every single time. And I think some good players did just get grinded down. Players have life cycles, and I think a lot of the players in the Rangers shirt did reach that life cycle. Now we've got fresh energy, fresh enthusiasm. For me, that is why Rangers is going to win the league. I think that expenditure, it needs to, with the money that Beales actually spent, ladies and gentlemen. But that's my thoughts and opinions, and I think it's going to be a phenomenal title race. I think both teams are going to be so far ahead of the other, it's probably going to be embarrassing. I think both teams will have the point record or point totals that would have won league titles in previous years, but one of them's going to win, one of them's going to lose. I hope it's Rangers. And it ends up holding that trophy, but they're just too far away. The league's on its knees. Terrible money, terrible this, terrible TV deals, terrible guys in charge that's been protected far, far too long because of the hatred of Rangers, and he panders to that gallery. The league is a mess, ladies and gentlemen, and I see Rangers and Celtic just absolutely galloping miles and miles and miles ahead everybody else, and I feel like Aberdeen and Hearts and Hibs are just better than the rest of the teams that just are starved of genuine money to improve their teams. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's my league predictions. What about you? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down there in the comment section below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is there somebody I'm missing? Am I somebody I've overlooked? Is there somebody I'm underappreciating? Genuinely let me know in the comment section below. It's always fun to see where other people's at. It's the start of the season. Let's get excited. Let's talk about it. And again, as always, I've been Sage Over 92. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. All the best and bye-bye.